There's always a chance that he's going to be out there soon, and there's a chance that he's not going to play this year. I can't answer that question, Marshall, because we don't know the answer to that. Markelle's doing great. He's progressing well. He's doing things on the basketball court that are a pure and natural display of his talents and his basketball instincts, and he's continuing to progress. Markelle had an injury, as you all are aware. That injury led to a lack of muscle control and coordination of his muscles, and through physical therapy and strength and conditioning and now increasing basketball activities, he's regaining his form, with respect to every aspect of, his preparedness to play, whether it's the physical component, the shot mechanics, everything. And when he's ready, and we feel he's ready, and the situation is ripe for him to succeed, then we'll put him out there. But until then, I don't have a timeline for you.
What's the range now?
It's within the paint, basically.
Okay.
Paint shots, perimeter shots are where he kind of draw a line. But anything instinctive going to the hole. We talk about shot creation and what he's able to do. Just with some of the rise ups, and it's nice to see. Nice to see it coming along the way it is.
The #1 pick in last summer's draft has still played just 4 games due to shoulder issues, and at this point there is no guarantee Markelle Fultz will be back this season. Guys, this is an odd situation to say the least. The media has been given access to Fultz shooting, and the images are not encouraging, and really neither was much of what Brian Colangelo had to say today, despite the kind of positive spin he tried to put on it. If you didn't catch that, he said Fultz's range is limited to the paint.
He said he had in the, you hear a lot of guys, man, this guy has in the gym range. I mean,
no,
he walks in the gym, he can shoot from anywhere. He said Markelle Fultz has in the paint range. That's where I was shooting from. I mean, well, your #1 pick, your best point, your point guard of the future can't just have in the paint range. If that's the case, then you might have to look at possibly shutting him down for the rest of the season.
Well, there's been this shoulder issue since basically the beginning of the season, and now apparently there's a lot of people believe there's a mental component to this as well that has crept in. There's a lot of pressure on this young guy.
Is he structurally okay now?
No one knows.
No one knows for certain.
Nobody knows.
He's still coming back, and you heard Brian Colangelo talking about what he's able to do, and he's getting better physically and the mechanics, etc. But that's what the shot looks like right now. So as an organization, and this is obviously, we've seen an organization willing to sit out players for an extended period of time, but what is the way forward here?
Well, that's so tough to answer without knowing. As we're looking at the shot, was that his shot in college?
No, his shot was nothing like this in college. I watched him a lot in college at Washington. Absolutely fell in love with the kid's game. He was a big guard, could get his shot at any time, pulled up, had great spins inside. His shot looked nothing like that. Coach, if I were to go show you some clips of his shot in college, you wouldn't even recognize it. That hit, that spaz, right now it's looking like he's thinking about every single motion of his shot before he lets it go.
And he wasn't shooting it from his chest the way he looks like he is now.
And he's coming across.
He's coming with the elbow out
and across his body.
Even Joakim Noah and Lonzo Ball don't think that's good for him.
No, there was nothing. That looks nothing like his college shot. And he was a good college shooter as a freshman.
No,
it's okay to laugh, Coach. Loosen up. I mean, we're going to be out here for 3 hours.
I was going to compare it to Barkley's swing in golf, okay, which sometimes goes in segments, as we know. That's where his shot is right now.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, one aspect no one's talking about, he might have to see a sports psychologist, because that looks like a lot of it's mental. Because if there's something physical making your shoulder do that, then you need to see a doctor. But if it's that mental part, he might need to get some help for somebody to help unlock why he's thinking about every single process of his shot. He might be putting too much pressure on himself. Being the #1 pick carries a lot of pressure, Coach, a lot of pressure.
This was 3 days ago. This was Tuesday night before the Sixers game. He's on the floor. So, obviously we have video of him. The media gets to see him. Is that a good thing for him? I don't know. Can he do this in private somehow and escape the attention that goes with all this?
Yeah, it's a little surprising that nobody has definite answers on whether structurally he's okay. And, as Brian said, Colangelo, he could be back and then he may not be back. And now you're leaving him out there for all of these media people to watch him and draw their own conclusion.
We've seen it in practice as well. And you guys know media is not typically allowed in during practice aside from a few minutes at the end so they can get video for their broadcasts. before they do interviews. Well, so there's been video of Markelle Fultz shooting from three-point range from all over the floor toward the end of these practices. It's been awkward. He doesn't look comfortable, and it gets out into the world, and then, you know, you've got the memes and you've got everything else with social media basically making fun of him. But it's a weird situation.
Can he play in scrimmages? Is he allowed to do that now in practice?
I have no idea.
I don't believe that's happening. No, not at this point. Just shooting.
I feel bad for
shooting
you,
like
man.
that.
I honestly think, and we talked about this off air, and I think you hit this right on the head. Right now, they need to protect this kid. Anytime he's shooting, anytime he's worked out, it needs to be a closed workout. It doesn't need to be any cameras around. It needs to be him in the gym by himself. I don't care what times. I don't care if you have to rent, if you're on the road, if you have to rent a gym at a high school gym somewhere. All his workouts need to be closed to the media until he gets this fixed, because right now it's not helping him. Every time somebody gets a camera or goes out there with their camera phone, they're sneaking pics, they're sneaking videos of this kid's shot, they're making fun of him. Right now, you can lose your confidence and never recover as a basketball player. That's the most important thing an NBA player has. Not your shot mechanics or anything else. It's your confidence, your belief in yourself. He can lose that very quickly because the world is going to start to be laughing at him in a little bit. So I think they have to protect the kid, start making sure all his workouts are closed workouts.
And to me, I mean, forget about this season. Like, the season is basically lost for him at this point. You got to worry about this investment you've made in the #1 pick in the long-term future.
They can't integrate him into shooting like that. They can't integrate him in during the season right now. They're trying to make the playoffs this year. You can't have a guy that's out there trying to find his rhythm, his form. You see how Isaiah Thomas struggled to try to find his rhythm. Imagine this kid, he's trying to figure out how to shoot again. So, no, they probably can't bring him back this year. They have to wait till next year.
Well, trade season is over as of yesterday, which means buyout season is here. Among the candidates to sign with contenders post-trade deadline, Joe Johnson, who landed in Sacramento yesterday, still hasn't reported last I checked, but has landed there. The Hawks and Marco Bellinelli have already worked out details of his buyout, so he's available. Perhaps Channing Frye, traded from the Cavs to the Lakers yesterday. He's been good on contending teams. You see some other names, including Tony Allen, who is free after being dealt to the Chicago Bulls. Corey Brewer, Shabazz Muhammad, perhaps. He's wanted out of Minnesota now that he's out of the rotation. And Derrick Rose, who, remember, was traded yesterday to the Utah Jazz. Boston was a quiet deadline day team yesterday, and before tonight's game, Celtics president of basketball operations Danny Ainge was asked what the Celtics may be looking for as far as a buyout.
Well, we need two-way players. I mean, it's hard to just put players in that can just play one way. Although, you know, like I said, Greg Monroe fills a need for us. I felt like we needed size and experience, you know, going in for the rest of the season and through the playoffs. But as we stand right now, I don't think there's a big hole for us. So we'll look for a good player that maybe is better than what we have.
All right, Danny Ainge wants two-way players. That makes sense. He's got a good defensive team. Well, let's start with the Celtics. What would you like to see them do? Was there a player on that list or a player you think might be available that would make sense for them?
I think a player that makes sense for them is a player like Joe Johnson. He has playoff experience. He has good size. Being about 6'8", he can handle, defend, and shoot the ball. And if you're talking about a team that's going to try to knock off the Cleveland Cavaliers and possibly match up with Golden State later on in the NBA Finals, you need as many guys that are two-way players that can do multiple things as possible. The way to beat Golden State is you have to match up with them physically. You have to have the guys between 6'6" to 6'10" to do multiple things. Joe Johnson's one of those guys.
Also began his career with the Boston Celtics way back when. Of course, the C's have already done a buyout with Greg Monroe making his debut the other night.
What about Cleveland? Can we talk about them for a second?
We can. They sent out 6. They only brought back 4. So, yes.
They have 2 spots,
yeah,
okay, that they can fill. And they are small. They don't have enough big guys. Love is out, you know, for a total of 8 weeks with the broken hand. And even when Love comes back, he's not a real leaper, and he's not that big. Tristan Thompson is an undersized center for them. They could use a big guy. And I saw one name up there, Brook Lopez, that would be kind of interesting if he were bought out. Would Cleveland, you think, be interested in bringing him in?
I'm not sure if they'd be interested in bringing him in because when you think big picture, Brook Lopez will get exploited in the pick-and-roll game. That's what a lot of teams want to do is they want to put him in every screen in the world. When you're talking about going up against Boston with Kyrie Irving, when you're talking about the Golden State Warriors, there's not a lot of room on the court to have Brook Lopez and a guy like Kevin Love. Then teams just pick their poison. Hey, which guy do we want to highlight in the pick and roll? So I think it would be very tough for them to bring him in. They might want to just bring in a guy, a physical bruiser, a guy that can once again be a good locker room guy. Kendrick Perkins. He's been in the G League all year long, working out with their G League team. He actually sent out a tweet yesterday saying that he was back and then deleted it. So maybe they're in talks with him. But I think a guy like that, a guy that gives you a strong presence, can give you, maybe 3 to 4 good minutes here and there, give you an occasional hard foul, be a good locker room presence. That might be a guy they're looking to bring in.
And Perkins is one of the few guys that will say what's on his mind,
right,
regardless of who it's to.
Oh,
part of that locker room culture that Kobe Altman was
Kendrick
talking about.
Perkins will give you the truth whether you want to hear it or not. And sometimes that's perfect for a guy like LeBron James. You need a guy that can tell you when, hey, it's your fault too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, no one's perfect. And sometimes, when you're the best player, you need guys that can tell you the tough things. And Kendrick Perkins is one of those guys.
How about Marco Bellinelli? He and the Hawks have reached an agreement on a buyout. He would make sense for a lot of teams. I know the Oklahoma City Thunder reportedly are a team interested in Bellinelli. Where do you see him making sense?
Well, he'd be terrific with them because of their loss with Roberson for the rest of the year. But, Boston could use him also, another shooter for the Celtics.
What about Golden State?
What about San Antonio?
Yeah,
played there before.
Marco Bellinelli actually fits with every team that's trying to make a championship run because, he's a guy who has pretty good size on him. He can make a shot. And so, a team like Golden State's looking for a little bit more shooting. He could fit in with them. He could fit in with the Spurs, the Cavaliers, anybody we want to talk about, especially OKC. Robertson being gone, they need somebody, whether it's a Bellinelli or whether it's Tony Allen. Like whoever it is, they need that type of player. So, Bellinelli, he's going to have his choice because a lot of teams are coming after him, and he can fit in anywhere.
Interesting. Tony Allen, OKC, or Marco Bellinelli, two vastly
very
different guys,
players.
Yeah.
But, Tony Allen kind of fits that role that Robertson had with the team.
Right.
Where he was the defensive guy that you don't really want shooting the ball, but, he's a very good defensive player.
Right.
There was some talk that Avery Bradley might not stop where he was traded to, that he could wind up in Oklahoma City.
He's playing tonight for the LA Clippers. That's all we know at the moment.
Too late.
I don't think he can make it, Coach.
Too late.
More coming up here on a Friday night on Game Time.